Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the Clipper faithful. Thank you so much for being here today on Tuesday, June 27th. You are here for the first event in When Adventure Month. We're doing 4 weeks of exciting events to get you all hyped up for the big adventure, which is planning on launching at the end of July. We are so lucky to have with us today our guest, Nick W. from Offchain Labs. I'm going to give him a chance to say hello, but I'm going to do a quick intro and tell you what we got on the docket for today. But Nick, just so you don't sit there, muted and feeling sad, why don't you say hi to everyone, and then I'll get back to the intros, and then we'll get into our chat.
Thank you, Ben. Going on, everybody? Super stoked to be here. Definitely a good conversation to be had today regarding, Arbitrum, governance, and everything in between. Stoked to be here, and I'm excited to have the convo. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's so nice to have you. It's really cool to have so many people in the audience already, and I know more people are even going to trickle in. So we're going to talk a little bit more about who Nick W. and Offchain Labs and what their relationship is and all that. We have a great conversation, but a little bit of housekeeping up first. So we want this to be a very participatory event. So that means you can ask questions in the hashtag AMA channel and at me. Also, you can raise your hand, and at the end, if you feel comfortable speaking, we'll bring you up on stage, and you can ask questions that way. As I stated earlier, this is the first event in Adventure When Month. This is a whole week of AMAs. We have Nick today, we have Raelian on Tuesday, and we have the Clipper State of the Union on Thursday, where we're going to have myself, a bunch of the dev team, some admins, some design people, some strategy people, just kind of talking about where Clipper's leading and what it's been up to and what's going on. So that's a really important one to come to. If you ask questions and your questions get used and they're great questions, we will reward you. So make sure you ask your questions, and I will take you down and compensate you for participating in the learning, because as we know, knowledge is one of Clipper's core values. I also want to remind you, don't forget to participate in kind of the open stuff that exists right now. That's the beginner's voyage. That's in the voyages subchannel. There's also the values voyage, and we have voyages coming up. And of course, we have a community poll that's in hashtag community poll. That should be open until the end of the week. And that asks a question about adventure. How much should we cap signups at? And also, we want to know how we're doing. Would you recommend the Clipper community to others? And that lets us know if we're getting better or if there are improvements to be made. So now you know where the questions should be asked. Now you know what kind of the slate of the week and the month is. Let's get right into it. Our guest today is Nick W. He's the partnership manager for Offchain Labs, which is a New York-based company building a suite of scaling solutions for Ethereum. This includes Arbitrum Rollup, the only EVM-compatible rollup that's currently live on an open public and full-feature testnet. Nick is, quote, the person who makes things happen when people want to work with the Arbitrum Foundation. We're going to have him here to talk about Arbitrum generally, Offchain Labs, the relationship between the DAO, Arbitrum, Offchain Labs, all that. And then also, as we prepare to decentralize Clipper fully, with governance, he's going to talk about how Arbitrum's governance has gone, what makes good governance, and do us a little bit of teaching. So with that long intro, Nick, welcome back to the stage. And why don't you say hello again and give us a brief intro about who you are.
Thanks, Ben. Great turnout here, I should say, already. You have a very lively community. It's great to see. What's going on, everybody? It's, again, super stoked to be here. Nick Westlake is my last name. And as Ben does say, I work partnerships here at Offchain Labs. Particularly, my area of expertise, or mandate, you should say, is protocol success, right? And a lot of things go into that, and we can get into it a bit later. But generally speaking, I think my introduction into cryptocurrency, digital assets, blockchain technology, it's, very similar to probably a lot of you folks, right? Just the general interest, I guess one could say, in these types of markets, technologies, etc. Right, and from there it's just kind of spruced. Started my crypto career, you could say, at a small project on the Tron blockchain. went off to work at a prime broker. And if you don't know what that is, it's an institutional focused exchange where they aggregate liquidity. They have treasury management solutions, custody solutions, the whole 9 yards. Then made the jump here to Offchain Labs. So I'm very familiar with a lot of aspects of this business, both on chain and off chain. And here at Offchain Labs, we are the developers and maintainers, I guess one could say, original developers of the Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova blockchains. And I'll stop there, Ben. I know you maybe wanted to get into the Holy Trinity, as you call it, between the Foundation, DAO, and Offchain Labs. I'm more than happy to kind of give an explanation there as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to explain kind of, we can go there. We can really go wherever you want, but maybe that's a good place to start. So you work for Offchain Labs, but there's also the DAO. There's the Foundation. Why don't you explain kind of what the relationship is between all three of them?
Great. So as many of you maybe know, is that the Arbitrum Foundation and the DAO are very, very new, right? Incorporated, if you will, back in March. And previously to that, Offchain Labs was the developer owner and everything in between of all things Arbitrum, right? Arbitrum 1, Arbitrum Nova, the Nitro technology stack, the AnyTrust tech stack, which the two blockchains are built on. But since the formation of the DAO and the Foundation, Offchain Labs has taken a step back, if you will, right? So as it sits right now, the DAO itself, right, is the owner of the blockchains, Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova, the Arbitrum token holders and its delegations. And in saying that, Offchain Labs has become its service provider in a way, right? Still maintaining the network, providing upgrades to functionality where see fit, obviously in regards to the governance as well. But really, Offchain Labs is still the just the service provider to the Arbitrum blockchains itself. Now we still handle a lot of the BD aspects, the marketing aspects of Arbitrum and its constituents, including the protocols. But really, the full chain ownership, if you will, is now on the DAO, right? And in regards to the Foundation itself, the Foundation is acting more or less as a shepherd, if you will, to the DAO itself, right? The DAO is its flock, and the Foundation is its shepherd, guiding it in the correct way, right? And then to build on that, also running like the day-to-day business operations, right? Because I know it's not, blockchains aren't tangible in the sense that we can touch and feel them and throw them around, but they're very much, real and very much a business. So in saying that, right, the Foundation does run the day-to-day, business operations. Legal is involved, the whole 9 yards. So with that, the Holy Trinity, as Ben calls it, is formed, right? So you have the DAO participating in governance, making decisions for the actual blockchain itself. You have Offchain Labs maintaining the blockchains, making sure that everything is running smoothly and then there are no problems. And then you have the Foundation, running the day-to-day operations for the DAO itself and making sure that Arbitrum brand, Arbitrum blockchains, etc., have a name for themselves out in the actual tangible world versus the intangible world that we kind of live in there.
That's a wonderful kind of summary. And if I could repeat it back to you, so it sounds like the DAO, that is governance, that's ownership of the blockchain. The Foundation is the shepherd to kind of maybe help guide in the correct way, and also liaison into the real world. And then Offchain Labs, where you are, is a service provider. What kind of can you go in a little bit about the services that Offchain Labs provides for the Arbitrum DAO?
Yeah, that's excellent. And you verbatim right back at me, sir. That's exactly how I would put it, dumbed down into just several sentences. But yeah, we do a bunch of stuff here at Offchain Labs for the DAO and the Foundation, and basically as it was in the past, right? So maintaining the actual blockchain itself, right? Like us here at Offchain Labs are not only core Arbitrum developers, but we're also core Ethereum devs. The Prism client, which is one of the most popular Ethereum clients, is owned by Offchain Labs. We acquired Prism Labs just last year. So in terms of the actual technology itself, right, we maintain the blockchain, again, make sure everything is running as smoothly as possible, next to zero downtime, et cetera, et cetera. And then to build on that, here on the team that I work on, a partnership / BD, right, is another service. So doing things like this, Ben, coming on to community calls, making sure folks are educated, any questions are answered, talking with protocols each and every day to make sure that not only selling them Arbitrum, but making sure if they do choose to deploy on the network that they have everything they need, and in terms of support and resources, right? So basically, just that first line of defense, if you will, for protocols building on the network and then to the Arbitrum blockchain itself. And then to build on that further, we do offer, the marketing team for basically Arbitrum as a whole, right? Our Offchain Labs employees. So the Twitter account is run by the foundation. However, in terms of setting up marketing initiatives, things like this, straight, still through Offchain Labs. So as the foundation and the DAO itself kind of mature and build out their own operations, if you will, I would expect us here at Offchain Labs to maybe take a back seat, if you will, as they again build out their operations. But in terms of just services we provide now is marketing, business development support, obviously technical support on the maintaining of the blockchains, and basically again acting as a front line of defense for the Arbitrum Foundation itself and anybody trying to inquire over there.
Got it. And so what are the kind of relative sizes of these organizations? Mostly off-chain and the foundation, because I want to talk about what the makeup of the DAO is a little bit later. But can you tell me a little bit about the size of those two? What would you call them?
Absolutely.
Organizations, I suppose, or companies,
or
projects,
organizations, actual companies. Yeah. No, it's a great question, right? And so here at Offchain Labs, we're just over 100 employees, right? That includes, it's all encompassing. So engineers, C-suite, BD department, marketing department, the whole 9 yards. We're very engineering focused, one could say, being core not only Arbitrum devs but core Ethereum devs as well. And in saying that, right, it takes a whole what's that saying? It takes a whole something to make the ship move, or something like those lines. But yeah, I mean that's so again we have like all the built out departments, if you will, of like a running startup, things of that nature. And then on the foundation side, I'm not going to call it bare bones, but it's an early stage company, if you will, right? They have board of directors, they have some C-suite individuals, some growth positions. And that's basically it. So it's around 15 or so folks right now. And again, over time, one would expect them to, as they mature, build out, departments, operations, things of that nature.
Understood. So let's dive now into the DAO, because DAO's governance, kind of the owners of the blockchain. Why don't we go like super basic? Like, who comprises the DAO? Who actually owns the blockchain? Who are these people? Let's talk to our users about that. As Clipper, because Clipper, decentralized exchange, is part of the Admiral. Is basically the treasury is run by Admiral DAO. So all of the yield that comes from here, the Admiral DAO is the entity that runs it, and we're looking to kind of have our users become Admiral DAO, or they are, but we're looking to kind of transition that process to make it more realized. And you guys have already done it, so why don't you talk about what that means to be a DAO and who's in it, and kind of you take it from there. What does that mean to be a DAO?
It's a there's been many plays on what is a DAO over the last several years, right? Some for the better, some for the worst, but all experiments nonetheless, and necessary. One would say or could say. But the way Arbitrum is set up is, it's very straightforward, and I wouldn't even call it unique. It's just, what we think is, a DAO is supposed to be, and its constituents are made up of all Arbitrum token holders, right? So if you hold, even the slightest little bit of the Arbitrum token, you can participate in governance. Now, what that actually looks like in practice, right, is a bit different. So I could definitely talk about, what goes into making a proposal, but from a very high level, right, we have these delegations where, you or I could, delegate our, maybe small stack of tokens to, compile them all up, and then you have one, large delegation of token holders. And now what you can do from there, right, is actually, make AIPs. You could, put through proposals, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And these delegations are made up of a very, diverse group of folks, right? You have actual individuals such as, Griff Green or Eric Wall, who have, approaching 10 million Arbitrum tokens delegated to them. Our biggest delegation is the Treasure DAO. If you're familiar, it's a large gaming studio / ecosystem here on Arbitrum. They have about 30 million
I'm gonna
tokens.
look that up. Hey, let me jump in for just a second.
Go for it.
So I think the key point there is if you're a holder, you're part of the DAO, and you have the ability
Correct.
to participate in governance. I also, since I'm sharing my screen, what's a good place for me to go to kind of just show on screen what like while you're talking along, what's a good kind of like background to show them? Maybe like
Hey, here. I'm going to send you something here on Telegram here, Ben.
Okay, awesome.
Good luck.
Let me open up Telegram, and then I'll quit interrupting you and let you keep talking about.
No worries,
Treasure
man. No worries.
DAO. Okay, we're exploring. Oh, so Tally. That's what I thought. That's a good idea.
Yeah, just all the delegations, just you can kind of see it's like it's a very diverse group of folks. But like, I mean, at the highest of levels, right? Like the chain ownership, again, is comprised of the the Arbitrum DAO itself and its delegations.
Oh yeah, I see Treasure DAO with 30 million ARB.
30 million, right? So, and then at the high level, right? It's made up of the DAO governance, which has always the utmost authority to make decisions, pass proposals, things of that nature, actually make changes to the blockchain itself. But then there's also this Security Council that is in place. Now, the Security Council is made up of 12 members, and basically they have power to, say there was a critical bug, or if the chain is about to melt down in a sense, right? They have the the quote unquote power to kind of circumvent a traditional governance proposal to remedy the catastrophic situation that could be at hand, right? And again, those catastrophic situations are outlined in the Constitution, and they are the DAO Constitution, I should say. And again, it's for just like super emergency things, critical exploits, things of that nature. Now, in saying that, the DAO again has the authority to basically either replace the Security Council. It has the authority to get rid of it altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I would advise against that, right? In terms of, it's more of an insurance policy, if you will. But what I'm harping on is that the DAO itself has the utmost authority to make the decisions as it pertains to the actual blockchain itself.
Right, assuming that their vote passes, and they put up. Well, why don't you talk about how do they take me through the method of their will being done? And then I also have some questions about delegates. So this treasure that has 30 million, I have a bunch of questions actually. So let's take a step back while I'm on the delegates page. So we have Treasure DAO, or Treasure, which has 30 million ARB about, and there's almost 300 million delegated tokens. So they have about 10% of the delegated supply. A quorum is 143 million. So that means you need 143 million worth of ARB tokens to even take a vote. Is that a correct way to understand that?
Yes, it would be correct.
Okay. All right. And how does one, so I have is it one ARB, one vote?
Yes, it is.
All right. So if I have 10 ARB, I have however 300 million divided by 10 is that percentage of voting power.
Correct. Yes, and those delegations, again, I want to harp on folks chose to delegate to Treasure DAO. You know what I mean? It's not like they collected these tokens like Mario, on a level or something along those lines, right? Like individuals, organizations, communities, et cetera, chose to delegate their tokens to Treasure DAO because they may think that Treasure DAO has common sense or good voting power in the sense that they'll vote with the general ecosystem, things of that nature. Who knows? It really is on such an individual level on why folks do delegate over to certain delegations in that sense. Maybe it would be wise or fair maybe if I walked the audience through what an actual proposal looks like and the steps that are undertook, I guess, to get there.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then just one question before we get into that. So I appreciate, so you choose to delegate your vote to one of these larger delegations, and it's as simple as just I connect my wallet and then I click the delegate button next to whoever I want.
Yep, you can do that on the Arbitrum Foundation website, where you can either enter in an address or pick from a drop-down menu of kind of what you see here, and yeah, it's as simple as just a few clicks.
Got it. All right, cool. All right, go to it. And wow, we're already at 10:20. So we'll fly through this. I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I want
yeah,
you to have time to yourself too. We might have to bring you back, but keep
I'm
going.
okay with that, man. I can talk about this stuff all day
I mean, we
long.
got 500 interested folks that want to hear about it, so we got to keep going.
That's
Yeah.
great. I know. Yeah. All right. So, where to start? So, at a high level, right there are 7 phases in which a proposal gets put through an AIP, right? And that first phase is optional, but it is recommended, and it's the temperature check, right? It's on Snapshot. The AIP is suggested, discussed for I don't know, probably about a week or two on the forums, which it would be accompanied by this temperature check or snapshot poll, right? And from there, either the snapshot poll is approved or it is not, right? And if it's voted no, for a majority, will not go past this phase. But if it's voted yes, right, a formal AIP and a call for voting will be, formed and submitted via the governance contracts on Arbitrum 1. And then about 3 or 4 days after that, a voter distribution snapshot will be taken, right?
Okay, so I'm just going to hop in. So I'm at snapshot.org/arbitrumfoundation.eth, the official snapshot space for the Arbitrum DAO. Anyone can put a proposal here, is that right? Or does there need to be, do you have...
That's a great question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's a good question. So to put an actual proposal through, you need 0.01% of tokens in any Ethereum address.
Got
so
it.
that equates to about 500,000 tokens.
Okay.
Now, to put an actual proposal through, which is what my next step here, you need about 0.1% of voting power, which is about 5 million tokens.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you actually need to, what's it called? Like, you need to put together, I guess, a delegation, because that's
a cohort, right?
A cohort, yeah.
There's a reason for that, right? It's like,
you don't want to just flood.
Not to be as crude as possible, but you don't want 9 million, snapshots going live at once, or something along the where eventually it just gets too much. It can't scale. Things of that nature, right? So yeah, you put it together a delegation of cohorts, right, like-minded folks, and then you can go ahead and proceed with.
And then the ARB sits in just one wallet, and kind of one person or a group of people that controls that wallet. They're the ones, they connect the wallet and they put in the proposal and says, okay, 0.05, got it. And then how long does a snapshot stay live for the temperature check? Is that set
about a week
in stone, or about a week? Like, do people say this will be open for 3 days or 8 days, or is it always X number of days?
So it is discussed for 1 week, 7 days.
Got it. Okay, so 7 days. All right, so then I'm looking at this one. Yoav's proposal to activate support for account subtraction. 61 million were for. Not very many people were against. So it looks like the temperature check, it ended 14 hours ago. So what happens next for this proposal?
Yeah, if since it's 61 for, 60, or we'll call it 0 against. If that say he had the 500,000 tokens to make the snapshot, he now has the 5 million tokens to make the actual proposal. It would go through a formal AIP and call for voting, right? And it's again submitted through the governance contracts on Arbitrum 1. However, to your point before, quorum does have to be met, right? And that's about 130 million tokens. So his AIP would not pass with 61 million votes.
Got it. But he gets another. He gets it to the. What's the next stage called? The actual vote stage.
The actual vote, yeah, the formal AIP, right? And these AIPs could be constitutional AIPs or non-constitutional AIPs. And what that means, really at face value, is that like the constitutional AIPs can actually change the constitution. The DAO constitution itself, make amendments, things of that nature. For non-constitutional AIPs, exactly that. They do not, change the actual nature of the constitution. Those could be, liquidity mining program, ecosystem fund, things of that nature, right?
Got it.
So there are, 2 separate types of AIPs on that front. And again, to your point before, it does have to reach quorum, and if it did not, it would not pass. And then, back to square one.
And where can I go to see a live vote right now? That's
you can head over to Tally. I'm not entirely certain there is a live vote at this time, but Tally is where the votes do take place.
Okay, so I'm at Snapshot, the top one. It's closed, ended 14 hours ago. It's got 61 million ARP, so it wouldn't pass the. So this person has ended their snapshot, but has not yet put forward their proposal to vote. Is that
Correct.
fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct. Yes.
Is there a certain amount of time after a temperature check is taken? Like, could this, if he waits 2 months, or Yoav, I don't know if it's a he or she, if this person waits 2 months, will he still be able to put up the proposal for vote later, or is there a timeline, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And it is in the sense that if they meet the criteria in which they can propose these snapshots and tallies, in theory they could just redo it again, right?
Yeah.
But in practice that doesn't look the same, right? Because if you didn't meet quorum, then you would have to kind of take it back, kind of re-engage, the audience, kind of what you can add, what you can take out to, reach that quorum, et cetera, et cetera. But again, just technically speaking, if you, pass the parameters in which you could put forth, these AIPs, then yeah, I mean, you could just go ahead and redo it.
Okay, I'm learning a lot, and I'm worried that I'm going a little bit too in the weeds, especially since
It's all good, man. It's all good.
I mean, I love it. I hope our users are too. I want to make sure to give them a chance to ask questions also. But what I said, deep dive into ARB governance. Why don't you? Well, you talked about the specific mechanics, the proposal to snapshot to vote. You talked about the Security Council. Can you talk a little bit about like why you set it up the way you did with these two-stage processes, what makes for good governance, what kind of lessons you all learned in setting it up versus other examples in Web3 versus IRL, any of that kind of stuff for a wrap-up, and then we'll open up to audience questions.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely talk about the reasoning behind it, and then what we actually did learn, because we did learn quite a few things, quite frankly. But yeah, I mean, again, at face value, high level, right? Like you set this governance up to not only democratize, I guess one would say, that the blockchain itself, meaning the DAO actually has chain ownership, if you will, etc., but also to set up in a way where it can scale. And scale, when I mean scale, I mean Arbitrum is a huge blockchain, right? But in terms of say like the average internet user, if you will, right? Like it's not at that type of scale, and I don't think many blockchains are at this point in time, right? But as believers in this kind of technology and industry, right? Like we foresee that happening, down the line, whether that takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it's, likely will happen at some point. And set it up just like that, right? So we mentioned before, Ben, like, not one Arbitrum token doesn't give you the ability to make a snapshot, right? Like, so there's not 500,000 snapshots taking out once. There are certain parameters that have to be met in terms of putting forth AIPs, proposals, things of that nature, to make sure that not only one, a large amount of token holders have to kind of agree that this is something that they want, thousands or, at that point, or hundreds of thousands, and then number two was for, again, make sure that the ideas are sound, and again, make sure that there's not like a large volume amount of things coming in at once, so that as the DAO ramps itself up in terms of actually operating as a DAO itself, these are kind of the preset settings, if you will, when loading up a video game. However, you can always change the settings, right? Like the DAO has the ability to change its constitution to vote on new stuff, and we do I expect that to happen over time, but again, just at face value here, it's just these are the preset settings. This is kind of it's working for everybody, and as they ramp up, they can most certainly change those settings. And what we learned about it too is when it first launched, I'm not sure if you remember, if your community remembers, right? Like the Arbitrum Foundation itself took a small percentage of the Arbitrum tokens to hold in its own treasury, and that was quite frankly wasn't like communicated better. There should have been an initial proposal to that the DAO voted on to do so, and there wasn't, right? And took that feedback, put out the AIPs to do so. They passed, but that was one lesson learned, right? If you're going to put out this very democratized governance, then you ought to play by the rules from the jump, right?
And you can see actually that it is democratized. I'm going through these snapshots, and it's not like it gets proposed and they. Yoav's got 99% for and basically 0 against. But there are quite a few that failed. So, if people don't like it, they'll come out and vote with their voting power. So it's pretty nice to see. But it sounds like the will of the people did want the Arbitrum Foundation to set a little bit aside to keep things moving. Ultimately, those AIPs did pass, correct?
They did, right? And again, it was really just it was a communication issue. Like again, you set forth these governance rules, and a lot of folks felt like you didn't play by the rules that you put in place, right? And took that back. The foundation itself took that very to heart very clearly. Came back out with these AAPs very clearly stating what it's used for, what it's going to be used for, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that got people more comfortable. In terms of like, it's not like a black veil, right? Like a lot of businesses that were maybe accustomed to are. I think they felt more comfortable knowing that like, okay, this is outlined now. This is what it's going to be used for. Instead of just taking it and basically saying peace, goodbye.
Understood. Okay. Why don't I open up the audience to questions? So I remind you, if you have a question, you can raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage. We'll do this for about 5-10 minutes, depending on questions, and then I'll let Nick have his last words and say goodbye. You can either @ me and #AMA, or you can raise your hand to come up on stage. And we do have a question pre-put in here from... Oh, I have a streamer mode on, so I can't say people's names. But let me just find this question. I will give you your credit once I turn the stream off, but this is a member of Bloodsail Bandit who is a part of Adventure 3. I'm assuming he's going to sign up for our next adventure in late July. And he asks, how can a project have a decentralized governance model that ensures transparent, efficient, and secure decision-making process, as well as user privacy protection and network scalability? That's kind of like a $10 trillion question right there.
I was going to say, that's a question of all questions. Yeah. And to answer that, I mean, specifically, right? I don't think technology like that currently exists. I may very well be not educated in it, but I think as cryptography itself evolves, right? Because it's a newer industry in the sense of actual iterations on it, but in the sense of old history, it's not that old at all, right? Like cryptography was used in world wars, et cetera, et cetera. Sure. But with the onset of computation, et cetera, it has been able to extrapolate itself out. But yeah, I mean, as these cryptography solutions, including like ZK tech, optimism technology, in which Arbitrum and Optimism are built on, right? And whatever comes after that, right? I don't think it's just the two. We'll see others type of cryptography operating systems. As those extrapolate out, folks will find use cases on how to, truly, democratize, I guess one could say, full governance while also keeping full, and I say the word is the worst word, anonymity or something along those lines.
Yeah, you got there. Anonymity, I think.
Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of Finding Nemo, but I digress. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't think a solution, exists out there just yet, but 5-10 years from now, I think we'll see, some of those solutions get built out in terms of just like uber privacy, while also maintaining, decentralized governance, etc.
Okay, great. Let me ask one last question, because I see our numbers. We're peaked at 530, and now we're about to go below 500. So, we got our 30-minute attention span in current DGen, which is about 30 times as long as I can pay attention to something. So let's ask. This comes from Captain Rusty, and I do remind our users, because these two users asked questions that got used, I'm going to reward them. I'm going to message them privately and give them some Matic. Well, maybe I'll actually give them some ARB as a reward. We'll see what I got sitting in the coffers. But Captain Rusky asked specifically for you, Nick, is there a particular partnership that you helped facilitate that you found most rewarding, and why?
Oh, it's a great question, man. Wow, that's
put you on the spot.
Yeah, right. I mean, I work with so many different types of protocols, man, and they're all extremely gratifying, including Clipper. Watching people succeed and actual, on a blockchain that you work, not only work for, but operate on yourself as a user, right? It's just really gratifying to work with really smart folks from all different walks of life and different types of platforms that they're building, whether it be a DeFi protocol or a game or what have you, right? I mean, to really answer your question specifically, I've been working on the Circle CCTP integration, which is the cross-chain transfer protocol, and cool. That actually went live today on Arbitrum, and it's going to be a real win for our users, I believe, because you'll be able to basically bridge, with no bridge risk, I should say. There's no well, there is smart contract risk, but there's no the way CCTV works is that you'll be able to basically bridge, say, from Arbitrum to Avalanche in a zap. There's no liquidity pools or anything of that nature. It's all facilitated by Circle, instantaneous. There's no slippage, things of that nature. And what that kind of unleashes, right, is a lot of interoperability and liquidity between chains, especially if they are paired with USDC stablecoin. And again, it's just we've been working on that for several months, and it's great that it's live now. The use cases that folks will start building out on top of it, and et cetera. I think it's just going to be a large net benefit for kind of everybody involved on the network, especially if you transact in DeFi and USDC is your stablecoin of choice.
Congrats! The cross-chain transfer protocol live today. You heard it here, folks. Go check it out. So, Nick, I'm going to let you get last word and say goodbyes, and then I'm going to do some. You can take off after that, but I'm going to do some housekeeping end announcements, and I'm going to do some giveaways. So the 490 that are still in the audience, stick around. You can earn yourself some giveaways. But Nick, the floor is yours to let them know what you got going on, what Offchain's has got going on, anything you want them to know. The floor is yours.
Very good. Thank you, Ben. Well, everybody, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to all of you. I hope, hopefully, you learned a little something. Arbitrum is, it's just a really great place to transact on chain, right? It's I've used many different types of blockchains, different types of protocols, and Arbitrum just does it for me in that sense, right? It's fun. It's a fun place. There's things to do on the network, etc. In terms of the future, there's been last 6 months or so just a huge amount of want, I guess one could say, from developers, from founders, from engineers, the whole nine yards, wanting to develop on Arbitrum, right? So there's a lot of novel and novel stuff coming, especially in the world of DeFi, especially during the summer leading into the fall here, Q4. But yeah, keep an eye out on new protocol deployments, etc. And then we announced just last week the Arbitrum Orbit. So that's a whole nother conversation, Ben, where we could do another 30 minutes on. But essentially, it's a way to launch a layer 3 app chain on top of Arbitrum 1. And there's also a couple caveats to that. But in saying that, we've been approached by larger Web 2 enterprises. You had Sobi just launch his XAI. He's one of the first gaming focused app chain, if you will, right? So a lot of cool stuff coming out of there. I would pay attention to a couple the announcements as it revolves around Orbit. I think that is the next iteration, if you will, of blockchain technologies, these app chains that will all be kind of connected in a sense. But yeah, working hard on that. And just the train keeps rolling, Ben. It's all gas, no brakes. And again, thank you guys for allowing me to come and chat with you all today. And I'm happy to do it at any time, Ben.
My pleasure, Nick. So after, when you step off, just send me any links you want in Telegram, and I will post them in chat to make sure everyone can find you, Offchains, Arbitrum Foundation, anything they need to go. Send me a whole host of links, so I'll make sure that more than just the 488 in the audience are here. Thank you so much to Nick. I'm going to let him leave the stage. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly we got 4 more minutes of stuff to do. I'm going to go through some announcements. I realized that I was sharing my screen for the recording, but I wasn't actually sharing the screen for you. So I'm going to pop those links into main deck so that you can see them. Because I guess people weren't following along because I wasn't sharing my screen. Let's do quickly announcements, then we will do some giveaways in AMA. So the first thing I'm doing right now is I'm posting a link to the kind of graphic of Adventure When that's in main deck. And what that is a list of the activities that are coming up over the next month. You're participating in the first activity of the first week. This is AMA week. We have an AMA today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Please show up for both of those. On Thursday is Clippers State of the Union. We're going to have a lot of the core team coming and talking about what Clippers been up to and what are the plans for the future. We have a design competition. We have trivia. We have riddles. Tons of fun stuff. Tons of rewards to give it out. And really, it's just fun. And And the exciting thing is that's just the beginning, because at the end of that, we have the adventure, the big one, currently called Clipper Sales and planned for the end of July. The other announcements is I would love for you to participate in the community poll. That's in the Start Here channel at the bottom, hashtag community poll. I'll put that here right now. Let's see if I can make the link like there. Pop over there and answer the 2 questions at the bottom of the community poll. That'd be really helpful for us. And then we have Voyages, which helps you learn about the product and also kind of onboards you, gets you cool NFTs, which will hopefully make you eligible for rewards in the future. So I very much suggest that you check out the Beginner's Voyage and the Values and Voting Voyage. Values and Voting Voyage is the only way that allows you to open up Clipper Voting, which allows you to vote on the processes as we are in our voting beta phase and as we work towards decentralizing more. So those are my announcements. Come tomorrow, come Thursday for AMAs, come for the rest of the month. Sign up for the adventure at the end of this month. And right now I'm gonna go do hashtag AMA, and we're gonna do 2 or 3 giveaways so that we can thank the 488 people that were in chat. We got up to 535 at peak. So I'm starting a giveaway in hashtag AMA. You don't have to spam the channel. All you need to do is react to the post. I'll tell you when it's live. We'll start with 1 winner. It will be 10matic, and thanks to Nick for the AMA, and we'll do 2 more after this. So it's starting. I always forget to put time in. We're gonna do this one more time. Create. We're gonna make it 30 seconds. We'll do 2 winners. We'll make each of them win 10matic. And it's starting now. Go ahead and react to the post. And the giveaway bot, we got 488 people in the audience. Let's see if we get 488 entries. We only have 6 so far. This is in hashtag AMA. Why don't I put that in main deck so people know where to find it. Giveaway live in hashtag AMA. Go there. We got 8 seconds left. Only 18 entries. All you need to do is click that button. Click the button and you can get yourself a chance to win 20matic or 10matic each. 1 second left, and our winners are Solaris and Captain Tokyo. Congrats. Let's do 1 more. That was our practice, and then I'll say goodbye. So we're going to do create. We will do 25 seconds. We'll have 2 winners, and it will also be 10matic. Go ahead, starting right now. Free money for learning knowledge. And also the 2 people that answered questions or asked questions that were used in the AMA, thank you for contributing to our knowledge. I'm also going to award you all with 10matic too. So prepare your AMA questions for Wednesday and Thursday. And if you're smart and contribute to knowledge, you're going to be rewarded for that as well. We got 2 seconds left in our last giveaway. Our winners are Leo Wasatu and Barnacle Rapscallion Turkey. So we have 4 winners: Solaris, Captain Tokyo, Leo Wasatu, Barnacle Rapscallion Turkey, and we have 2 knowledge contributors, which were Captain Rusty, as well as looks like a ... So I'm going to message you guys so that you can send me your wallet and I can reward you. And with that, I'm going to stop recording right